A group called Employees Committed for Justice filed a class action lawsuit on behalf of black workers in 2007 and claimed that they were not being paid the same as white workers. They were not being promoted as fast as white co-workers. And they found a shyster lawyer somewhere in the slums of a law school who has now taken Eastman Kodak to the cleaners for $24 million. The reason that the company settled is because they were afraid of further litigation. The company also agreed to enhance its diversity training, which means re-education camps. They would hire an industrial psychologist in order to brainwash the labor force into accepting workers who were not as good and making them think that they're even better. The settlement comes a decade after Kodak paid $10 million in back wages and granted $3 million in annual raises to correct disparities in pay and promotions for black and female workers. In other words, they already paid $13 million to the incompetent. Now, on top of that, once they paid, they admitted they were wrong. They found a lawyer in the gutter of the verminous outhouses, who then went and said, oh, you agreed that you paid $10 and $3 million, so you're wrong? Well, now we're going to sue again. Plaintiffs in the lawsuit charged that the program did nothing to correct Kodak's discriminatory practices and accused the company of maintaining, quote, a work environment that is hostile to its African-American employees. They said that they were passed over for promotions. Now, let us assume that there were some workers passed over for promotions, black or white. Must we assume that every worker passed over for promotion, black or white, is passed over because of their color, their race, or because they're not as good as somebody who was given the promotion? Think about it. So this is what went on with Kodak. It's what's going on in America. What just happened with Kodak is happening to you. In essence, you're paying in one way or another. You're going to pay for the downtrodden, those who have had bad luck, or those who have treated their bodies badly, or those who have bad genetics. They are going to be rewarded, and you're going to pay for it. So you say, well, what's wrong with that? Rob from the rich to give to the poor. It's an old theme, Robin Hood. Well, let's talk about it and see how fair that really is. I'm a man in my 60s. My entire life, I've avoided certain foods. I've exercised when I didn't want to. I've eaten foods I didn't want to eat. I took vitamins I didn't want to take. I avoided certain things in my life that I know would have been harmful to me. And consequently, thus far, knock wood, I'm not on any prescription drugs. I've had no major surgery. It could happen tomorrow, but I've been very lucky. It's not only a matter of luck, it's a matter of self-control. Now, what about if we take a man in his 40s who has abused his body with drugs, eaten fried foods, smoked cigarettes, used a lot of marijuana, used a lot of cocaine or whatever, and abused himself saying, I really don't care how long I live. And he comes and needs a liver transplant, or he needs a bypass surgery or a heart transplant. He needs constant medical care. He needs an assistant, and you're going to pay for that? You're going to reward bad behavior, and you're going to punish good behavior. It's exactly what happens when you have an upside-down communist system, and that's what Obama represents. He represents change, but it's change for the negative. There are also people who abuse the medical system because they are bored and they have nothing to do. I wrote about them in my superb book, The Skeptical Nutritionist, which came out, I think, in 1981 from Macmillan Publishing. It's no longer in print, so I'm not trying to sell you a book. In The Skeptical Nutritionist, I coined a phrase called recreational medicine. It was a little noticed phrase, recreational medicine. There are thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, let us say an unknown number of grifters in the medical system who have no jobs or are paranoid or are hypochondriacs, have nothing to do but cage the system and go from doctor to doctor to doctor with real or imagined complaints, and you're going to pay for that as well. How is that going to be controlled by the great Obama? How is that going to be controlled by Axelrod, the backroom deal maker from Chicago? How is that going to be controlled by Rahm Emanuel? Are they going to control for recreational medicine? Has anyone addressed that? Albany, New York. Derek, you're on the Savage Nation. Go ahead, please.
Hey, Mike. Mike, I agree with you about Obama wanting to be a dictator, okay? And he gives all the implications that he's going to try to carry it out. However, what's going to stop him is the United States military. They're not going to go along with it.
Oh,
Police,
please.
maybe.
Are you kidding me? What world are you living in? Which military are you referring to? The one that won't fire a shot?
No, the rank and file, soldiers like me when I was in the military.
Yeah, come on. The military wouldn't do it even if they could. The military has no leadership whatsoever. You have a U.S. Navy that won't fire a rubber bullet at Kim Jong-il's launching pads. What are you talking about? Anybody in the military opposed the threat to this government was thrown out a long time ago. You got organization men who fit very nicely in the military or in corporations. They're yes men. They have no incentive whatsoever to do anything on their own. And I'm telling you right now, you're dreaming if you think anybody's going to stop this dictator. Nobody's going to stop this dictatorship because they're not stopping the man from imposing a Soviet-style dictatorship right now. Who stopped it when he took over the banks? Who stopped it when he broke up General Motors? Who stopped it when he came up with cap and trade, which is a crock of garbage, an invention of Al Gore and the criminals who are going to make trillions of dollars on that garbage? Who stopped any of this? You Republicans? No, my friends, you have a dictatorship. Nothing will stop this dictatorship. The people are too stupid to know any different. And let me tell you something else. When these criminals get away with this, their appetite is only going to be whetted for more power. And the next thing you're going to do is jam amnesty for 30 million illegals down your throat, which will give them power for 1,000 years. Because the ignoramuses who don't speak English will do whatever they are told to do by the war chairmen that run the Politburo. Understand how this works. 30 million illegal aliens will vote Democrat for the rest of their life, as will their children. You will have no country left. Mark this down. I am right.
Savage. I want to let you know that I love Michael Savage.
The Savage Nation on Talk 910 KNEW.
You have to ask yourself why this hustler from Chicago is so anxious to push $1 trillion-plus healthcare overhaul, which I call a Soviet-era healthcare system, in the next 2 weeks. What's the rush? If it's such a good plan, why not give people time to analyze it and digest it? Why is this man forcing it down everyone's throats so fast? In order to answer this question intelligently, we have to go to experts who really know what's in the plan. We have such an expert. Robert Moffat has been a veteran of Washington policymaking for more than 25 years. He is the director of the Heritage Foundation's Center for Health Policy Studies, so he knows what he's talking about. Dr. Bob Moffat, welcome to the Savage Nation.
Hi, how you doing, Mike?
Bob, I want to focus on one element of this 1,000-page document, and I know you've read it all. What about people like myself who want nothing to do with government doctors, and I say, you know what, no thank you, I'm going to see my own doctor. How's that going to work? Are they going to let me do that?
Well, I mean, you may be able to find a doctor outside of the system, perhaps. I don't know. A lot of the details have yet to be filled in because you're dealing here with legislative language. Legislative language in this business is not enough. As you know, Mike, what happens is that the Congress transfers to the Secretary of Health and Human Services an enormous reservoir of regulatory power. And oftentimes what will happen is the bureaucrats at the HHS will write rules to determine how the bill would actually be enforced. But I will tell you this, in both the House and the Senate bill, you are going to be required by law to buy a federally approved health insurance package.
Well, I understand. Let us say I don't buy it. Then they're going to fine me. It says 4% of my gross income if I don't sign on to the Marxist health system?
No, they will that's exactly right. They will impose a penalty. In the Senate bill, it's a penalty.
So in other words, I cannot see a private doctor because there aren't going to be any? Is that more or less what you think is coming?
Mike, the thing is, they know this. I mean, most of us get health insurance. Most of us basically finance health care through insurance.
Let me go to my case because I can't understand the whole world. I have a PPO, which I pay a lot of money for. And I have a large number. I can actually see almost any doctor that I wish. Or if I've been cut my hand, I had to go to an emergency room. I went, and they reimbursed me. My own health plan does up to a certain amount. Is that going to all go away?
Not necessarily, but the thing is they'll make it so hard for your doctor to practice medicine independently. The very few physicians will do it.
So, in other words, we're going to have a lower quality doctor than we already have, just as in the Soviet Union, doctoring was one of the lowest professions, not the highest. So we're going to go from Ben Casey to something on the order of, an orderly in Mao Zedong's China with a stethoscope? I mean, really lousy doctors, in other words, dumb people who just want to be a doctor?
I think what you'll have is that if you have a situation where your medical profession is subjected to bureaucratic rulemaking in Washington, and they control reimbursement. They will reduce reimbursement for doctors primarily because more people will be in the government health plans. What will happen is that a lot of people who would otherwise be in medicine will choose some other profession. And unfortunately, the bad news is that an awful lot of very highly qualified and highly skilled physicians will say, look,